Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Forbes India presents The New at Work, presented by Google Workspace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Forbes India Present, The New at Work, presented by Google Workspace. My name is Manu Balachandran, and joining me today is a rather esteemed panel. We have Mr. Rajiv Sikka, the Chief Information Officer at Medanta. In his current role as CIO at Medanta, Rajiv is responsible for group IT functions covering digital transformation initiatives and IT operations. He has formulated a 5-year IT roadmap and successfully rolled out multiple standardized initiatives across hospitals. We also have Mr. Srinivas Pamidimukala, the Chief Information Officer, Mahindra Logistics Limited, who has significant expertise in directing IT strategy, building system roadmaps, and leading support and implementation projects. Among others, his expertise spans digital transformation, application implementation, business analytics, and process automation. And last but not the least, we have Ms. Sumedha Chakravarti, the country head India and SAARC business at Google Workspace. Sumedha has over 15 years of experience in sales and management consulting in the technology and tech startup, financial service, and healthcare space. She was awarded the Chicago Booth India Scholarship and was on the Dean's Honors List at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Thank you, Sumedha and gentlemen, for joining us today. The new normal is slowly becoming a reality now. But this new normal, this future of work or hybrid work, has its own set of challenges and anticipations for enterprises, especially from a work perspective. According to a recent Forrester study, a vast majority of Indian organizations, almost 80%, plan to adopt the hybrid work model in the next 12 to 24 months, while 63% plan to make a permanent move to remote work over the next 2 years. Across enterprises, CIOs are attempting to adapt to the solutions and platforms they implemented over the past 2 years to facilitate relationships and teamwork. Health and mind fitness initiatives and engaging meetings to drive collaboration and establish effective communication are some of the steps taken by the organization to thrive. All this results in boosting productivity, of course, of the team. That's why it's critical for organizations to rethink their strategies of delivering engaging experiences for all their stakeholders to ensure a seamless, interconnected, and digital experience. They have to leverage the role of technology in accelerating future of work, enabling hybrid work models, and enhancing organizational agility and resilience. On that note, let me welcome our first panelists for their opening comments on how the past years has reshaped their work and thinking. We can start with Mr. Sikka and then move around to the others.
Last 2 year plus, we have seen three waves of COVID coming from a hospital background. I try to correlate these three waves to three large kind of trends which I have seen at least in Medanta as a hospital. First wave was to make sure that we are able to have folks work from anywhere which is away from the hospital if the need arises. So that was like sometimes workarounds and sometimes systematic approaches. Second wave came, we were able to institutionalize or solidify those experiments or workarounds or initiatives which we have carried out in the first wave. And when the third wave came, according to me, what we are doing is that we are picking up some of the initiatives which we see that they're bound to stay irrespective of pandemic or not. So which means that those will be now we are making it enterprise wide and also ensuring that they are foolproof and part of our operations and operating procedures as we move forward. So this is very clear cut trends which I am forcing at least in Medanta and some of the other peer hospitals in the country.
Mr. Srinivas, your opening thoughts?
Pandemic has really changed the way we live right now, right? I mean, what I would say is it changed the way we behave as humans, right? And also the way we work. I think it made a significant impact in terms of what I would say the work pattern itself, correct? But
Sure.
what I would say is the impact is so huge, right? But some people, but we still have businesses to run because logistics being one of the essential services where people got stranded at home. We still have to deliver packages, we still have to deliver essentials and all that stuff. But we had to work round the clock, right? Your warehouses has to churn, product has to move, right, to households. So we always had we had the infrastructure and other stuff equipped for people to kind of support work from home, right? uh, like I said, it has been like, we thought wave one, when wave one came, we said, like, without vaccination, we all said, okay, I think it is just a flu. And people, I think, entire population, like, kind of, we underestimated the underlying current. And then we got hit by a massive wave two, right? Where there were it actually impacted a lot of families, I would say. Like, known people in your distant, somebody, everybody, there was an impact. We lost a lot of heroes for COVID as a company, right? So, and then then awareness came, then we had the vaccinations came in. Right now, wave three again, nobody expected. Like, in January, we again had to go on. We were down at least a month in January, right? But we still have businesses that need to run, and they run on IT, as IT being a center for logistics. We still have to do and deliver, right? So I think, overall, I would say, I mean, this pandemic really taught us a different way, a different, what I would say, different way how we have to live, right? I mean, it's a lot of things changed due to pandemic, right? The first and foremost is the way we work. I think that is a big change that I think, that's what, as we go into this, we will talk more. But I think that is where there's a huge impact. The way we work has totally changed for most of the organizations, especially for IT organizations.
Let me bring in Sumedha. Sumedha, your opening thoughts here. How much has work changed?
I think we have done a lot of research internally as well as spoken to a lot of our customers, and irrespective of which industry they are from, there are three common pillars that we see are emerging as themes. Work is no longer a place, the office concept is out of the window. I mean, people can get work done from anywhere possible. So that's the fundamental shift that has happened and is going to stay even post pandemic. Second, human connections are crucial. Wherever you are, even if you're not present in person with your rest of the team members or people you need to connect with, it is crucial to have the connection in whatever form or shape as close to the normal connections possible. And human connections on the family side has also emerged as equally important for many people, especially those who have personally gone through the struggles of COVID in their families. And thirdly, time is critical. um, the value of time that we have understood in the last 2 years when we were trying to manage our work from home as well as our chores in the household across the globe. The importance of time has improved even more over the last 2 years. So these three pillars are critical, and it has emerged across all industries, including our own organization as well. And as we think of the future, we do believe that whatever policies, culture transformation policies that we will bring forward, and leading organizations will bring forward, will pivot around these pillars, and also will have a mindset of constant change, because it's not something that is going to be static in time. And now that we have experienced this in the last 2 years, we should be ready for any such similar pandemic kind of situation in the future as well. So that openness and flexibility among organizations is also something that has emerged as an underpinning and an outcome of this pandemic, I would say.
Now, let me come to Rajiv. Rajiv, could you sort of take us through some of the tools you equipped the staff with, ensuring that, of course, they were connected securely and were able to collaborate and stay productive as well?
So let me, first of all, give you the context of a typical tertiary care hospital. Here,
Right.
we don't have the homogeneity of the employees or the staff. We have doctors, and doctor comes in different classes. There are physicians who do OPD. There are radiologists who do, read your scans, CT, MRI, X-rays, and report them. There are lab doctors who look into your blood samples and other stuff and help in authorization or releasing the reports. There are nurses, who are part of the, especially IP care in the wards. And then there are technicians who do your CTs, especially COVID time. HRCT was very, very important and critical. So let me give you some flavor of, what kind of activities we carried out. I'm not deliberately touching upon administrative staff, which have like finance, marketing, IT, legal. They are like desktop, laptop, so work from home, VPN or otherwise. So that's like, for us mundane and given. Let me take an example of physician who do OPD consults. So what we already had a very hardcore in-house developed telemedicine platform. It is not a typical VC platform. It is a platform which is integrated to 7 other backend systems, which means that whether a doctor is doing a consult from telemedicine platform or in person, or he's going to an outreach program where he's doing a mobile-based consult, irrespective of that, he can always see patient records in a reverse chronological order, which is very important for him to write a prescription or do a treatment or choose a line of path. So this was, one tool which was like a super hit among all the doctors and definitely among the patients. Because what we have seen is that our telemedicine consult moved from 1x to 12x during the peak of the pandemic. And platform was so robust that it was able to cater to that load. And multi-myths get, busted. And I'll talk about it at later. But this is for physicians who do OPD consults. Let me now take the example of, radiologist. We have 5 hospitals in the country, and in one of the hospitals, all the radiologists, all were down with COVID, and they were not supposed to come to the work. So that was a very scary situation in which, now there is a scan, CT or MRI, which has to be reported because next day surgery or immediate surgery is dependent on, the kind of report which is going to come out. So in this case, what we did is that we made all the hubs together. All the scans goes to a system called PACS. It's a standard system. It's a DACM compatible. And scan being done in one location, that goes to the work list of the other radiologists who's sitting in other hospitals, and smoothly the scan was getting done. And then there are different TATs, stat versus urgent versus routine, and then there are business rules with respect to which body organ is going to get reported and so on and so forth. So that way, what we realize is that sometimes, there is a lung scan and sometimes there is a brain scan. So now we realize that even if for a particular time in the odd hours when the doctor is not, radiologist is not in the hospital, we have a mechanism to have it reported away from the hospital. So this is, and we manage the show for 21 days without being single radiologists available in that hospital because of the COVID. Because earlier we were caregiver and suddenly we also became patient, and a lot of people within hospital got impacted. I'm not talking of hundreds, I'm talking of thousands in each wave. Because we are all humans. Third, I'll take an example. Same thing with lab. There are 70, 80 lab analyzers. We put them into IP protocol. Some of them were not compatible. We put RSI2 protocol, adapter, which means that with some lag of 5-10 minutes, they can be seen through a typical IP protocol on internet, secured internet, and results can be released. So this was for lab doctors. Now, another beautiful example came for nurses. We all know that in a typical ward, nurses have to do some non-clinical duty. There is a nursing call bedside, which is on the bedside. Any patient will press it, say that I need a glass of water, I need a blanket, my AC is not working, remote is not there. So nurse has to go unnecessarily, close the call bell, service the request, or ask someone to service the request. So out of roughly 100 such requests, more than 60 in a typical hospital are non-clinical in nature. So what we did is that at each bedside, we put a Alexa video, and on the nursing unit, there was a big Alexa. So patient has to say, hi. So Alexa will ask, how can I help you? He says, I need a glass of water. Immediately, he picked up the keyword called water. Call will go to the F&B department, and immediately someone from the F&B department will reach and submit. So unnecessary movement and so forth. There are multiple examples. Blanket, it goes to housekeeping. AC not working, it goes to engineering department. That's the basic programming we carried out. And ultimately multiple visits of the nurse, uh, and they were at shortage because of they were all wearing that complete suite which was for COVID appropriate protocols in a typical hospital, and unnecessary visit got reduced to less than 30%, which was a huge relief for an unnecessary exposure. So this was a very very simple application of a technology. So I keep saying that tech is not important. What is more important is that how do you apply that into a solutioning aspect. So this is the example of, and this is not the end. I think the most beautiful stuff which we found was that, and not many people are aware that when we have to go into a CT or an MRI machine, there is a positioning which is very important, and only seasonal technicians help you in putting in help in laying the patient or having him adjusted to the, because you have to expose the organ which has to be scanned, and this is a job of a very specialized technician. Now we realize that they were also getting exposed, they were also getting impacted because of COVID. So we came out with a mechanism with the help of a partner to build a console control mechanism on a internet, which means that console with the help of a camera which was lying there can be managed through a remote. So such a beautiful example was that now we don't have to have a technician sitting 24 by 7 wait for a CT or MRI, because in the evening or late evening we don't have much CT and MRI. So whenever such scan comes, technician can log in remotely and able to adjust the patient, and unnecessary exposure of the CT technician also get reduced to zero.
I think some phenomenal work underway at Medanta, of course. I mean, very fascinating to know about all of that. But let me just bring in Mr. Srinivas here. Srinivas, you represent a sector that has witnessed a whole host of challenges, and yet, you had to remain operational for the supply of essentials, and later, of course, of the movement of all goods. Could you take us through some of the initiatives that Mahindra Logistics undertook to accelerate the digital journey of the company, in the past few years?
Nowadays every company runs on digital, right? But logistics is pretty intense, right? Because we have warehouses and we have a lot of customers to serve, right? So the digital push, during the pandemic, we had all the infrastructure where we had 100 plus IT folks working from home, remotely supporting all the systems. So some of the initiatives that we started was, what we did was we had a lot of these API interfaces going with all the customers, right? So we have eliminated a lot of this manual work, because we are a company where, being a 3PL, we actually get push and pull, like data comes from customer to us and to the warehouse, and from there we receive what needs to be shipped on that particular day or that particular week. Then from there we actually bring the transportation in, transportation goes to the end customer, then we do track and trace, where a customer at any point of time can know where his shipment is, right? So
Right.
this all, I think, was in a completely digital push, where we developed we took a software which is a middleware, where we integrated all that stuff, and which is seamless, right? At Whenever the customer sends a request, we get the data into our system, and then it passes on to downstream. So that is one of a significant push that we made, where we have standard set of APIs where we can integrate with any customer. I think that is one thing which actually improves a lot of productivity in terms of people entering data manually into the system, right? So that is one of the digital push. Then also, as a Mahindra, we have electrical delivery vehicles, where for last mile delivery we have been using electric. Our part of whatever we can do to save the carbon thing on earth. So we have actually launched all the last mile deliveries. There is a push to get onto a e-delivery. So that's why there is in the market itself, you can see a significant push on electrical vehicles for last mile deliveries, right? So that
Right.
is something where we have partnered with an organization which actually gives us a battery check, how many kilometers you can run on that particular, with a charge, how many kilometers you can do, and other stuff, right? So the last mile delivery is typically, a last mile delivery is on a two-wheeler, right?
Right.
At the most a three-wheeler. So this is easy to get onto that kind of initiatives. We deployed around 800 odd EDEL vehicles, right? And there is some software synergies that we are integrating with the different OEMs, and where you can see a dashboard of what you can see metrics on, like, like I said, how much charge is there, like how many kilometers can you run and other stuff. And we also had pushed a lot of these employee self-service applications, right? For example, in the warehouse we have a lot of these third party contractors that come in and go out, and with COVID people are afraid to do a fingerprint, right? I mean, so all the fingerprint companies, like, they were off shelf, right? Nobody was preferring them. So we have introduced like a facial recognition system where, if we geofence that application. If a person comes, he knows he's in that particular location, and it does a facial recognition of him, and that's where the attendance management also happens. So there is a push now. We have done POC on a couple of sites, and we are actually ramping up that initiative as well to all the other locations. So that way you can know at what time a contractor or a third party person came in and what time he left. So that also will improve your productivity. If people are working remote, right? If they want to look at, so we are pushing a lot of these self-service initiatives, like, they can log on to the system, they can do a course, right? They can they'll know what is happening around the company. Then also payroll, pay slips, all the digital initiatives. We have started those initiatives now, and they'll be probably done in a month's time, right? So we have put a lot of thrust on the digital thing, so that everything is easily available for employees or customers, so that they don't have to ask people for data. So that's what we are trying to achieve.
Sumedha, it looks like these two companies, of course, are exceptions, but from an infrastructure and capability standpoint, we know that hybrid or flexible work is possible. But what are the trends that you've been seeing with some of your clients, and of course through your research? Because a lot of organizations are still to make up their minds about hybrid work.
I think, as I said, hybrid work is here to stay. Now, at what percentage depends on which industry that particular company is. What are their use cases that are driving this decision? But some form of hybrid is here to stay. And as both Rajiv and Srinivas gave some excellent examples of how they have embedded technology in just improving their business operations, day-to-day operations. I don't think they're going to go back to how it was in the past, because clearly the examples are pretty obvious that they are innovations on what was working, but now the outcome is much better and much faster, much more efficient and simplified. So hybrid is here to stay. Now the challenges of how each individual goes through their own lifestyle in terms of managing this hybrid is what the organizations need to track for. And that's where the culture of the organization will come together and define certain policies and enable those kind of technologies to support those policies, helping their employees to make the transition. For example, in Google, I'll just give a few examples from Google itself. We have made a kind of a flexible workplace policy where we are asking employees to come back maybe to office 2 to 3 days in a week, and the rest of the time they can spend from wherever they feel, of course closer to their base location, but they do not need to come to the office. And that also depends on the teams that they are part of. That doesn't mean that we don't do our meetings or we don't do the catch ups that are needed for collaboration and innovation in the kind of work that we do. But that's where technology will be supporting them to manage this kind of a hybrid way of working. Another piece that we are enabling again through the technology that we internally use, which is also Google Workspace, we are lighting up something like a companion mode. And in that companion mode, you can actually, we have seen the positives of actually joining in an online call where everyone in the call has an equitable say in a particular discussion that is ongoing through a thing called hand raise. Right, this is something that was new, that came up in the last 2 years in a very big way. But if you just rewind a few years back, where you were all part of an important meeting in a big boardroom kind of a setting, the leader was giving some view of the vision, or a town hall kind of a thing was happening, were were there enough opportunities for everybody in the room, even if it is a small setting of 20, 30 people? Was there enough opportunities for everyone to participate? Most probably not. But in the online world during COVID, we actually got a flavor of that. So the way to keep that in, we thought in our product, is we enlightened a mode called the companion mode, which literally allows the person sitting in the room to also join in with the companion mode in the online meeting as well, so that they can equally participate in both the kind of conversations. If they want to make a point, they can still do a hand raise through the companion mode, even if they are part of the room. So there are small tweaks that we are making to our own product to enable the kind of participation culture that we want to drive in Google, as well as what we are hearing from our customers. But the short answer to your question, Manu, is hybrid is here to stay. The policies that every organization will take will depend on what they want to drive as a culture in their organization, and technologies will be there to support each and every decision. And we got some great examples today, and that's for us as technology providers to hear those feedback from our customers and keep on developing our products to support their needs.
Just to follow up, you mentioned hybrid is here to stay, Sumedha. Of course, now we are seeing a shift to more flexible and distributed teams. How is that impacting the adoption of technology, and how do we sort of address that?
I think that adoption of technology has been fast forwarded by at least 10 years, is what I hear from everyone I have spoken to on this topic, mainly customers. And they are also in a mode or in a mindset to learn about new technology. So that's another new thing, I would say, or a great thing that this pandemic has taught to all of us. We have all become very good learners, and we have all have become very good receptors of change. Whether we liked it or not, we went through a change which was forced upon us, and that really led to this mindset change. And I definitely believe that the newer technologies will become more pervasive, and the adoption will be much higher in the future for any new technology that is being rolled out. It is definitely, like I said, for technology players to make sure that they are supporting the human interaction instead of making it more like an overlay or a jarring experience. That is important, and that's the constant signal we take from the market. But as an individual, as a user, people have become more open, people have become more receptive. The growth or the learner mindset, I think, has been embedded in us very strongly in the last 2.5 years. And I really hope that that is here to stay for all of us going forward.
Rajiv, your organization was, of course, right in the front and the center during the pandemic. Being an early adopter of technology, what were some of the initiatives you took for, its innovative and creative application?
There are many, some of the examples which I've shared. These are like, there were no parallel except for the telemedicines stuff. But let me share a few other stuff. Remember somewhere in June, July of 2020, when government declared that lesser impacted, or the people who have no symptom or asymptomatic patients or mild symptom patients can be treated at home with certain basic infrastructure, and nobody knew how to treat patients away from the hospital. Hospitals were also learning for the first time, and I was part of the team which was consulting or helping civil surgeon and civil officers or medical officers of the district. And we were discussing and we know nothing about it, so we were having 48 hours. So what we did is that this was declared on a Saturday afternoon, and Monday we were ready with an application by which we were asking patients to enroll. And it was not a very again very sexy attractive application. It was a simple web-based portal. No whistles, no bells. Whosoever was enrolled System was giving them alerts to share their basic vitals at any given stage. If the vitals are below or above a threshold, intimation was going to the doctor immediately. Doctor was reaching out to the patient, and during the day, if the vitals were not filled, intimation was going to the nurses and medical care managers who were reaching out to the patient. And anything which was going out of the way, immediately patient was checked in a typical ambulance and was made sure that he reaches a hospital, whether Medanta or nearby. So what we did is that no hospitals in the country, and as a matter of fact, even outside the country in the developed nations, was having enough infrastructure to accommodate the kind of rush hospitals were facing, the overwhelming of patients. And with this simple technology, where there was a three-way communication between patient, nurses, and doctor, and in a 24/7 mode. And it gave a lot of confidence and trust and kind of a relief to the patient that somebody is there and they don't have to rush to the hospital because there was no bed also. And this particular tech we were able to solve in 24 hours, and we treated thousands, tens and thousands of folks throughout the COVID, especially in the second wave when there was a severe shortage of. And this is very simple, innovative tech which we did. Had it been a normal time, in 2 days you can't even write the specs of a simple application. But in 2 days we simply wrote, and it was truly first time right, agile app developed in 48 hours, up and running. This is one example I thought I'll share with you.
Absolutely. Srinivas, as supply chain architecture is, of course, being reimagined the world over, the challenge is not only, integrating the office stuff, but of course, the warehouse stuff and mobility stuff. So, how are you leveraging technology to ensure not only safety and health, but also productivity of your staff?
Productivity is twofold, right? First of all, for an employee to be productive, they should be given. I always believe is like people, process, technology, right? So you should have all the processes that are properly defined, and you have the right people doing the right job. Then, of course, you have technology that actually eases the job. So while we have put a lot of these levers into the organization by saying, by not you do proper planning, right? These kind of stuff comes with, am I planning properly? So for warehouse, what happens is, for typically the warehouse staff, there's always product coming into the warehouse, right? Typical, I would not go, I don't want to dive deep into how the operations work, but typically a product comes, you actually stack that into the warehouse. Then when an order comes to a customer, you take the product out, you put it in a truck, and you send it to the end location, right? That is a typical, pick, pack, put and ship, right? So in this, what happens is, the more, if you try to load people in the regular shifts, right? I mean, obviously, being the pandemic being there, and this pick and pack is not like, we are not automated, right? It is actually a human effort that goes into it.
True.
So the way we have to do is, we have to maintain social distance, and we have done a lot of what I would say is, we have done a lot of camps explaining, like, what to do. We have done vaccination camps. We just didn't overload the people with a lot of, the churn was, we made sure people had regular shifts, and there was a rotation on people, right? So for that is where we said, like, whenever the essentials come, the government was also government was allowing the essential stuff, so we made sure people had a definitive break. And we also did resource optimization and also better planning. And
Absolutely.
we do shift rotation, because you don't want, already people are scared with the pandemic, right? I mean, I think when it hit, everybody was scared, to even step out of the house, right? I mean, there are still people who don't want to come out of the house even for 45 to 60 days, right? So that is the reason why it actually had an impact, right? So we made sure that there was if everything starts with proper planning, and like I said, people, process, technology. That's where we follow.
We'll just take closing comments from all our panelists, essentially about what do the CIOs really need to do as we come out of this sort of transformative phase, and how can they foster a culture of transparency and improve the shift towards hybrid?
Hospitals have realized that care can be given away from the hospital. So, which means that it has to be mobile, it has to be contactless, which was the need of the pandemic. So when we say mobile and contact led, it means remote. It means hybrid. So future is definitely going to be hybrid. There are a couple of learnings which I've definitely picked up in last 2.5 years is that uh, done is better than perfect. So you at least try, do it, and then make it perfect for the enterprise standards. But at least do it. So that's my basic mantra, which at least I have imbibed myself in last 2.5 years.
Certainly. Mr. Srinivas?
We are like we have a pan India presence, and people are working in IT from different locations, right? I mean, that's a reality. That's here to stay. So we, as a company, had 115 roles, right? Roles which are permanently work from home. We said like you don't have to come to office, right? If you choose to, you have an option like once a week you can come. So we have permanently moved some positions work from home, and some are like I said, we are not forcing people like you can come like to 3 days a week, and some like us leadership we are coming every day, right? So one of the things is the engagement with employees is critical, right? Because what happens is people being remote, they don't know what in an office environment you have an option to gel with people, talk cross corridor talks and all they miss. But we just have to make sure they're part of your team and you engage with them. And once you start engaging with the people, right? If you don't engage, you lose the person. I mean, let's admit the fact, right? I mean, if you don't engage, if you don't connect with them, and they're going to they'll find some other place. And as you know, the market is also like that, right? It's actually there's dearth of there's a lot of need for talented people. So I think engagement is going to be the key, and of course making sure that they have something to do. They're actually learning and growing within the organization. I think that's a critical factor what people look at. So these are going to be my two fundamental things that we have been focusing on, right? Engagement and learn and grow.
Sumedha, your closing thoughts?
Hybrid is here to stay. The other thing I see very encouraging among the leading CIOs of the country are they started listening to their employees or feeling the pulse of the employees much more in the last 2.5 years than maybe they were, really doing, because the setting was not as such that you would get these indications so easily. But when pandemic struck, as both Srinivas and Rajiv, you both mentioned, there was that need for engagement. There was that need for really understanding the pulse of the employees became even more important. So what I hear from CIOs in India as well as globally as well, based on research that we are reading across Google, is that leaders want to really align with what their employees want, and the future of the employees ask has been having a technology platform in their premises which is very much aligned with what they do in their personal lives. I mean, that seamlessness, that helpfulness of products or technology is something that they really want, and leaders are actually looking at providing that to the employees. One, as Srinivas you rightly mentioned, there is a lot of the great resignation thing has also hit India as well as it has hit the rest of the world. So there are these expectations that employees come in with, that I will be taken care of, the engagement levels will be at the expectation of what I bring in from my previous organization, and how are the technology platforms supporting that. So many CIOs are actually keeping that in mind as to how they embed the needs and the wishes of the employees as they are selecting platforms. And that's where there's overwhelming response from the market to understand more about Google, because Google products are in general loved by people across the board. And we've seen that signal come through, whether it be the 3 billion plus users who use our workspace platform, or coming in from our maps platform or some of other Google products. Many of those are billion plus user products. We actually keep on getting signals, user signals, and we keep on feeding those in our products, because at the end of the day, that's what CIOs of the future are looking for, how to keep their employees engaged and how to really cater to their needs, and going a little bit more employee friendly than it was in the past. I think that's the major change, and everything will fall and align with that. Again, taking Srinivas's point around people, process, and technology at the end to only support the first two.
Absolutely. I think on that note, since we are short on time, it's been a fabulous discussion, and we can absolutely be certain that hybrid is here to stay. CIOs are certainly putting their best foot forward to improve workplaces and, of course, listen more to their employees and become more employee friendly. As you know, as Sumedha mentioned, the Great Resignation, is happening around the world. Thank you on that note for everyone for being with us today. I'm sure the audience watching us has gained a lot of insights from this conversation. Thanks again, and stay safe.
Forbes India presents The New at Work, presented by Google Workspace. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.